Hi, friends. So today I thought we could talk a little bit about prayer because for many of us, we have more time to access that in this time of social isolation. Um, Father Scott Trainer talks about putting together a prayer plan. I think that's a great idea. And there's certain components to it that are essential to a successful prayer time. And that prayer time then allows us to make sure that God is not substituted by anything else, but rather that He's first and He's most important. And also that the energy that we need to get through all kinds of circumstances in our life, that we have that access to that energy. And prayer is that conduit for both of those. So, what is that? What does a prayer plan look like? Well, a couple different things are important. The first is that we find a place to pray. Now, yeah, we can be in Eucharistic adoration, we can come to Mass, we can be on retreat, all those stuff that we don't actually have time for right now, meaning we don't have access to, should I say. But right in our homes, we can find a place. And that place, just like, we come to church every Sunday and it's a regular place that we come to, if we find a corner of the house or a chair or some sort of space that's my prayer chair, that's my prayer space, then that's conducive to, as soon as we sit down, okay, this is my place for prayer. And that actually helps facilitate prayer. Just like when we get into a church, we find it easier sometimes to pray because we've been trained in that space to enter into prayer, right? So space is important. The next one is it's time of the day to pray. Now, a lot of spiritual masters talk about if you don't do it in the morning, it's not going to get done. And I'm a subscriber of that. It's not that I don't pray later on in the day or at night or whatever, but I just find that morning is a good time for me. Now, that might mean that you get up extra special early before you go to work or to school. And for me, before I start my day and interacting with a lot of people, if I got to get my prayer time in then. So morning times is for me, but you might find that later in the evening is actually a good time for you. Have at it. The next thing is, how long will you pray? Pick a time for prayer. Don't change it up a lot. It's good to have the habit of a prayer time. So like, let's just stick with the half hour, okay? Now, two scenarios. That half hour could be filled with dryness, and you're just thinking to yourself, I'm not getting anything out of it. Stay with the half hour anyways. You'll be blessed by that, especially if you do that over and over again and don't give up because you don't feel you're getting anything out of it. But the same goes with if you have like this really ecstatic experience of God and you're actually levitating in prayer, like, oh, and you want to stay for like 3 hours, don't. Try to stay within that half hour, okay? Be consistent in the time in which you're going to pray. And then the Lord will move you over time to, if He calls you for more time, that's fine. But let that happen naturally. Another thing is to pick something to pay attention to in prayer. Don't just go in, sit down, and then be frustrated because you can't think of anything to pray for. I have a lot of people who ask me how to pray, and take some material in to pray with. It could be a Bible, it could be a prayer book, it could be a rosary, it could be praying the Divine Mercy Chaplet. And the other thing is important with having something to pray with is that, again, when you don't feel it satisfying or energetic, or you're getting distracted or whatever, or it's dry, that's okay. That's fine. Just stay with it. And then here's the thing. Tell God about it, Lord, this is how I'm feeling in prayer. Express that, communicate that to Him. Be honest in your prayer time. It's far better to do that than just to give up the whole enterprise of prayer. Communicate how you're feeling in your prayer time. But what you want to avoid is flipping from one thing to the next and thinking, well, that didn't work, that didn't work, that didn't work, and just keep going on to the next thing, the next thing. That's going to end in frustration, right? Be consistent. The next thing is consider the truth. And this truth is this. In your prayer time, God is gazing upon you with love. Because sometimes when we enter the prayer, we look at ourselves only, in our performance in prayer, or we look at ourselves as unworthy to be approaching God in prayer. And so we see ourselves as terrible sinners, right? No, remember when you're he's looking at you all throughout the day, but when you're in prayer, he's looking at you with love. And you need to do the same for yourself rather than beat up on yourself, because God's not beating up on you in prayer time. Another thing is notice when something arrests your attention. This is important. You might be reading a scripture passage, let's say the gospel reading, and you're reading it ahead for the Sunday. And you're just kind of praying with it slowly and reconsidering it and putting yourself in that scene, the Lectio Divina stuff we talked about before. Something might very well pop out to you. Stay with that scene, that image, that feeling, that thought. Because that's a way in which God speaks to you. It can be a way. And the same goes with distractions. You can be very distracted by prayer, but sometimes we want to dismiss the distraction because we have an agenda in prayer. But sometimes God is using the distraction to call your mind to something he wants you to address. These and other ways are the fundamentals of putting together a prayer plan. And when we stick to these 7 components of a prayer plan, I think that regardless of how we feel in prayer, what we think we're getting out of it, that consistency, that constancy, that rhythm, that routine of prayer can go a long way in us returning day in and day out and saying, no matter what's going on inside of me and around me, Lord, you matter. And connecting to God and the energy, the grace, the blessings that he offers us is that stuff that in fact will get us through the day in, day out of living and the ups and the downs. A prayer plan is very important to have. Till next time.